Brian, are you there?
Yeah, what's up?
So Vidya and Savitha are unable to get in. They have an incorrect password. Can you check that? They say their password is incorrect when they try to log in.
Okay, let me.
I think the rest of the panelists are here.
Probably apart from the representation from UNECA. Carol, he joins later, right?
Yes, he'll be able to join a little later.
Okay, so Caroline, we have all the French interpreters are here and the Spanish are here. I'm only waiting for the Hindu and the Portuguese. I'm also going to check on the concerning just
so the Hindu interpreter, Brian, can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm saying the Hindu interpreter has an incorrect password for the link we shared. So are you able to do anything from your end so she can join?
Okay, let me see. That's, oh my God, what session is this? What's Let's search branding. Yes, search, then update. Sorry, Carol, I'm managing too many of them at the same time, but I'm sorting it out. So,
okay.
On Facebook, I've just shared the link on the chat. Do you want me to share it with everybody? There you go. You can share it with the rest.
The link for the interpreter, you mean?
No, for the YouTube, I've seen someone asking. I'm trying to sort out the interpreter. So I shared the email with her. It's Vidya Dinker. Okay, I'm writing the code for you on the chat, just to you. You can
and Savitha also.
Okay, I've sent you the code.
Okay.
Portuguese is here. Yeah. Who is Portuguese? What is this French? No idea. Okay, are we good? Don't worry, Caroline, Crystal, in terms of time, this account will not be used again. It's only your session that's here, so you can extend a bit if you'd like, okay? It's not a problem.
Yeah. But
don't worry.
Starting in 4 minutes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that you can extend in case you need to. There's no any other session on this channel.
Thanks.
Yeah. So we have French is available now. Portuguese and Spanish is also available. So we're only waiting for the Hindu, then we can kick off.
So Vidya says that's the code they've been using, but it's not going through for them.
Okay, I don't know, because everyone else has joined with the same.
Now it worked.
Yeah.
Vidya, are you there now?
I can't see her. Maybe she's joined as an attendee. Let me check. Yeah, she's here. I'm promoting her to a panelist. And I'm going to activate her. You want to say hi to her first before she goes?
Before she goes?
She's here. Where? You can say hi. Before she goes to her channel.
Hi, Vidya. Hi, Vidya. How are you?
Hi, I've managed to join. Just 1 second. I'm also asking Savitha to join. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, so I think after her we are all set. We can go. So let me enable her channel, then she can start. We can all start. Okay.
Yes, the same code didn't work until now, and now it finally did.
Okay. Crystal, we're good to go. We are live on YouTube and the recording has started, so the floor is yours now.
Thanks. Carol, we're okay to go?
Good to go.
Great. Hello, everybody. We have about almost 40 participants. Welcome. Thank you for giving us time on this afternoon. Sorry about a bit of a delay in the beginning. As with everything else, technology will always fail us when we really need it most. Welcome to the session titled The Gendered Impacts of Illicit Financial Flows in Mining Affected Communities. We really want this session to focus on giving a global South perspective and voices and to highlight national to international links between gender and tax issues with a very specific focus on women in mining affected communities, and also learn from each other and share strategies. So we've got a really great panel today, and I don't want to take up so much time. My name is Crystal Simeoni. I am the director of a new initiative called NAWI, the AfriFem Macroeconomics Collective. We work at the intersection of an Pan-African feminist analysis and macro-level economic policy, so issues ranging from debt to tax to trade issues as well. And so without any further ado, I will welcome Winfred Gabire, who's Executive Director of Global Rights Alert, a member of Publish What You Pay, and she's based in Uganda, I think in Kampala. Winfred, correct me if I'm wrong. I'll give you 8 minutes to give your African experience coming from the Pearl of Africa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope you can all hear me. I am in Kampala, and I will just talk using our experience working with mining communities and particularly women. So in the first instance, I think I would need to indicate that for Uganda, our tax system does not distinguish between male or female. So, when you're buying a commodity every day, whether it's sugar or bread or equipment for working within the mining sector, it doesn't matter whether you're male or female. But we also know that women are generally the poorer group compared to the male counterparts. So we have one group of women which is registered legally and with a mining license. And that group is paying taxes like the other registered mining organizations and companies. So you'll find that a group of poor women which does not even have enough money to buy the basic equipment, are paying taxes, competing with big corporations and big groups that have got tax exemptions and are not paying taxes because government has favored them and instead is not looking at how to support the smaller groups so that they can also have a bigger tax base from which we can get money. So we have very unfair rules, unfair policies that promote the bigger corporations, give them advantages to not to pay taxes, and yet the small groups of women which are struggling to work in the mines are paying heavy taxes. And that does not encourage, does not promote a very good investment climate. So it's an issue that needs to be looked at in terms of how do you support these groups so that they can have enough capital, so that they can be active and can contribute to the development of the economy. But instead we are overtaxing them. We're not giving them any holiday, and we are giving the holidays to those that are well placed and should be paying more taxes. We also know that tax mining is happening largely in areas that are very underdeveloped. So there's no clean water, the roads are very bad, the health centers are not working, but the level of appreciation in terms of what taxes could do and what services are being offered in the area, and the potential, the mineral potential that we have in our communities, that connection is not being made very, very well. So whether you're a woman in the mining community, whether you're a woman in whose backyard they're mining, there is not a very good discussion on why are these international companies coming and mining here, but our services are really the worst. And I think that is one of the reasons why we see that women from the mining communities do not have the services, but they're also not able to question because they do not link taxation, they do not link economic development with what is happening in their communities on a daily basis. But also women would want to contribute paying of taxes, but the tax bodies, whether it's at Uganda National Revenue Authority, whether it is the local government, they do not have the capacity to explain, to make the women miners understand, to make the male miners understand how to pay these taxes. So taxation is a very illicit, venture that leaves many people who would have, not only paid taxes, but also determined how these taxes are being used. So that disconnect between the tax collecting bodies at national level, the lack of capacity at local government levels to explain and account for the taxes that are being collected is also one of the challenges that we find in our mining communities. That we have a number of international companies that are working in here. They are avoiding to pay taxes. They are dodging, and government is not, bring them to book. And that's very, very discouraging. So when we see that big mining corporations are not paying taxes, even the small and medium scale investors are also finding ways in which to avoid not paying these taxes. And as I said at the start, ultimately it is, the poor women who are working day and night, they're being paid very little money, and that money which bigger corporations are avoiding to pay could have been used in betterment of the sector in which they are working. So I also wanted to point that out. And the other one is also that we see a lot of under-declaring. For example, when you look at our records at the national level, the Auditor General is always asking year after year why we record very limited, very few, very small production. For example, we record the other year we recorded about 16 kilograms of gold that we are mined in Uganda. But you find that Uganda Revenue Authority is indicating export of gold in 1,000 kilograms and above. So we do not understand why there is a difference between what is being produced and what is being exported. And we also cannot account for any imports that have come in the country. So those gaps between what is produced, what is exported, and what is imported needs to be captured, because ultimately we think that, if the business is not clean, probably some of the things that we are seeing in Uganda and in the neighborhood, in the neighboring countries, are the kind of conflicts that we could be having, mineral conflicts that we're not accounting for. And we know that when there is conflict, usually it is the women in the mining communities, usually women around the mining sector, the mining communities, that suffer more than the men are suffering. So in order to make sure that mining and taxation benefits women, both in terms of making where they are working very safe and productive, we need to invest in understanding where the challenges are coming from in the first place, but also providing platforms through which women can contribute to shaping the taxation regimes in countries like Uganda and other developing countries, but also to have governance questions being asked, because usually the law would say one thing, but in terms of operationalizing the law, in terms of the favors that are coming from government towards mining companies, especially those that are coming from outside countries, we need to be asking why they are being favored against the indigenous mining groups that could be supported. The other thing that also may need to ask is why governments, especially from the north, will support or finance any other program, but they are not interested in financing cleaning up of the mining sector. I think it's an issue that we need to look at. If governments are using their taxpayers' money to fund roads, to fund agriculture, to fund electricity, why are they not tasking our governments, which have so much resources. We have gold, we have copper, we have tin. Why wouldn't how can the governments in the north put it to our governments to first make sure that our resources are put to good use before they give us support? So the support that they are giving us as developing countries, I think, should be one, aiming at cleaning up the sectors, but also making sure that our taxation regime is clear, is transparent, instead of just keep giving us loans and loans and loans that are going to service in the long run. So the investment that is coming from the north should be aiming at clearing the sector so that we can be able to tax it and tax it properly, but also account for the money that is coming from the resources that we have. We also have an issue of, I think I mentioned it, of under declaring our production. So both the women in the sector and the oil company, and the mining companies, I think they have gotten used to under declaring. And because they know that our governments are not really interested in cleaning up the sector, I don't know to whose benefit, that problem also needs to be resolved so that we can put our money, we can capture the right amounts of money, but also put the money to good use. So the other issue that we also need to look at, if we are to talk about a better taxation system, is also to put inputs in the women mining groups, whether formally registered or not formally registered. Let's give them capital, let's give them tools so that they can produce, so they can sell their gold without smuggling it, so that they can deal with middlemen who are always cheating them, and so they can develop to become large-scale miners in the long run. Currently, we are working on a new law for the taxation, for the mining sector. And we hope that one of the things that we are going to work on is to have, a law that provides for penalties when you dodge taxes, when you avoid paying taxes, and also to bring to appreciation of what the sector can bring to the country. Because if we do not talk about the potential for the sector to bring development to the country, if we don't talk about why people need to pay taxes, if we don't talk about penalties for not paying taxes, I think our mineral sector, which has a lot of potential, will keep underdeveloped, and the country will keep underdeveloped. Yet we could avoid all that if we are doing good business. And when we have good business, everyone will have access to the benefits, including the dividends from paying taxes, and accountability and transparency will be meaningful rather than just being theoretical words that we throw around. So in conclusion, a woman would want to pay tax if she's investing in the mining sector. A woman from a mining community would want to see that her community is developing because people who are extracting the resources in her backyard are paying taxes, and that those taxes are being put to good use. If we do not pay our tax, if we don't put the little tax that is paid to good use, there's no incentive for encouraging good tax compliance behaviors, both to individual investors, but also to small and medium companies that operate in Uganda. And the issue of support that comes to developing countries like Uganda, the support that is coming from a taxpayer's money in the north should also be used to strengthen the taxation system in developing countries. So that at the end of the day, the relying on taxpayer from another country to develop a taxpayer in this country should stop. The companies that are coming to invest here should also be asked to pay taxes, and should also be paid penalties when they do not pay. The collusion between investors with our local governments, with our central governments to avoid taxes is hurting our economy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Winfred. You've brought up so many issues and such pertinent issues. I will not comment on them, but I will pass on to Mukasiri Sibanda, who's here. And in about 3 to 5 minutes, Mukasiri, you are working with the Tax Justice Network Africa. You've got a Pan-African over sort of bird's eye view of the issue. Just a response to Winfred's presentation and your thoughts on it from where you sit and the work that you do in about three minutes.
All right, thanks very much. I think the first thing to flag out is the issue of information poverty that is hurting particularly women and girls. When you talk about illicit financial flows, they are facilitated in an opaque manner. They make decision making in terms of the governance processes very exclusive because government is ordinarily not relying on resources in a transparent manner that can account for service delivery. And this goes to the second point. When resources are lacking, government does not have adequate fiscal capabilities. We look at, for instance, the equalization that is necessary to bring women advancement. For instance, you talk about the economy. Nowadays, women, most of them do not have opportunities to work in terms of online. When people are being quarantined, you talk about education, they suffer most because they are the ones that are lagging behind. As we talk about modernizing the sector, the burden that is disproportionately felt by women is huge. When we talk about also the environmental sector, because the extractive sector by nature has got burden that it imposes to communities, the cost of extraction and also water stress that comes in that area. And these are some of the challenges that also bog down women. Lack of infrastructure. Basically, infrastructure is also critical to reduce the unpaid care burden for women. For instance, if you have got piped water, you've got your energy source, these are some of the things that normally women, they suffer as a result. So just to wrap up the conversation, it also starts with participation of women in the formulation and implementation of decisions that affect them, and information poverty that is greatly induced by illicit financial flows because they thrive in terms of the opaqueness of the financial transactions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukasiri. That was so succinctly put together. Thank you so much for maintaining your time limits. We might come back to you if we have a bit of time. I'm trying to manage time because we have quite a number of speakers. I am aware that there's a problem with the Hindi translation, and we're going to somebody who only speaks Hindi. So I'm just going to ask Brian to check if we're okay with language and where we are. Brian, are you there? And can you hear me? Brian is the technical brain behind this massive.
I don't know why it seems like the interpreters have not yet managed to. The French, Portuguese, and Spanish are okay. I'm looking for Hindi. Okay, let me just disable hers. Then she tells me what the issue could be.
Okay, because we're about to hear from Savitha, who will be speaking in Hindi. Savitha, okay, you can wave if you can hear us.
Wait, 1 second, please. Sorry. Is Vidya there? Vidya, can you hear us? Okay. I just need to enable it, then she can go. Okay. Okay. So just kindly remember to hear. She needs to be on the you need to be on the Chinese channel to hear the translation. But as if they're speaking in Hindu at the moment, then we all need to go to the English channel. So
we all click English.
If they will be speaking Hindu, the translation will be done on the English channel. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
And then I think we could.
Savitha, if the translation is working for you, please wave. Yes. Okay, there we are. Welcome, Savitha. Savitha is coming to us from India. I'm not entirely sure where in India she is, and she let us know, but she's a representative from the Asia Grassroots Association, I think, of Janchetana Raigar. And I will welcome her. I'm really sorry if I didn't pronounce that, and I'll wait for you to pronounce it so I can learn from you. Welcome.
Thank you. Namaste. Happy Diwali. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
हाँ, मेरा नाम सविता रथ है और मैं जनचेतना रायगढ़ से हूँ और हम लोग रायगढ़ छत्तीसगढ़ में कोयला खदानों के हालात पे लगातार काम कर रहे हैं और हमारे यहाँ का जो हालात है वो वास्तव में 3 तरीके के कोयला खदान का क्षेत्र से घिरा हुआ है। वहीं पे बहुत सारे पावर प्लांट्स भी हैं। तो हमारे यहाँ एक तो है क्लोज माइनिंग, जहाँ पे खदान खोल के लोगों ने छोड़ दिया कंपनीज ने, और सरकारी कंपनी और निजी कंपनी है वहाँ पे। और इसके बाद एक है जो ऑपरेशनल कोल माइंस एरिया है जहाँ पे के लोगों की दिक्कत है।
The translation seems to have a problem. I think we are being told to click on Chinese.
Okay.
For English speakers, Brian, am I correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, the interpreter has not changed, so let's just go to the Chinese channel. Listen to English. Should not change to the English channel, so it's fine. Yes, you're supposed to.
Hello.
Okay, kindly just click on the English channel so that we can hear you. Yeah. Okay.
Savitha, the floor is yours. Let's try again. I'm so sorry. The floor is yours.
तो हमारे रायगढ़ छत्तीसगढ़ में 10 कोयला खदानें हैं और उसमें से 8 जो है वो ओपन कोल माइंस है और 2 जो है वो है अंडरग्राउंड कोल माइंस। वहाँ पे 3 तरीके का कोयला खदान है जहाँ पे पूरी तरीके से आदिवासी समाज रहता है। वहाँ पे 86% ट्राइबल रहते हैं। वहाँ पे कोयला खदान है और इसके बाद वहाँ पे 3 तरीके का कोयला खदान है जिसमें से एक क्लोज माइनिंग है, एक ऑपरेशनल माइनिंग है, एक प्रोपोज कोयल माइनिंग एरिया है। तो उसमें से हमारे यहाँ जो अभी तक खाली पड़ी खदान है उसको सरकार के द्वारा 2 तरीके का कंपनी है। एक कंपनी निजी कंपनी है और एक सरकार के द्वारा किया जाता है। और इसके बाद यहाँ पे कोयला खदान के जो खोद के विकास के नाम से चला जाता है लोग।
Savitha, please pause a little bit so that the interpreter can interpret. You can speak, just give her a bit of time to interpret after you say a few sentences.
तो इसके बाद वहाँ पे जो ऑपरेशनल कोल माइंस है वहाँ पे ब्लास्टिंग, घर का टूटना, खेत, जंगल, जमीन सब खत्म होता है। वहाँ का जो टेम्परेचर है काफी हाई हो जाता है कोयला के जलने से। वहाँ पे पानी पूरा कोयला खदान में चला जाता है। इसके बाद कुछ उसके बाद 65 गांव है वहां पे प्रोपोज कोल माइंस है जहां पे लोगों ने कोयला खदान को सीधी तरीके से मना किया हुआ है कि हमको और कोयला खदान बिल्कुल नहीं चाहिए। और इसमें सबसे ज्यादा जो लड़ने के लिए आए हैं उसमें से हमारे ट्राइबल महिलाओं का है जो 60 गांव वहां से हमारे यहाँ महिलाएं लड़ती हैं कोयला सत्याग्रह जन आंदोलन करके, जो नमक सत्याग्रह गांधी जी के प्रभाव से उसको कोयला सत्याग्रह, हमारी जमीन हमारा कोयला, उन्होंने नारा दिया है। इसके बाद डॉक्यूमेंटेशन के भी बहुत सारे काम वो करते हैं, कागज लिखते हैं। और हमारे यहाँ पेशा एक्ट एरिया, शेड्यूल 5 एरिया है, वहां पे ग्राम सभा का सबसे बड़ा अधिकार वहां दिया गया है, लेकिन सरकार नहीं मानती है, भारत सरकार, और वहां जबरिया कोयला खदान जो है वो प्रस्तावित करती है। इसके अलावा गांव के लोग बिल्कुल भी कोयला खदान में उनको नौकरी नहीं मिलता, महिला रोजगार बिल्कुल उनको नहीं मिलता है, और उनको विकास के नाम से ये जमीन ले ली जाती है, और उनके लिए भूख, उनके लिए बीमारी छोड़ के ये खदान चला जाता है। अरे क्या हुआ यार? हेलो,
Yeah, Savitha, can you hear me? We lost you for a bit, but you have the floor for about 4 more minutes.
सॉरी। तो हमारे यहाँ सरकार जो है वो ग्राम सभा की बिना अनुमति के लोगों को बिना पूछे कोयला खदान कंपनियों को नीलाम कर देती है अभी कोरोना काल में। इसका हम लोग सीधे तौर पे विरोध कर रहे हैं और सरकार से बोल रहे हैं कि जब तक पूरे खदान का जो समस्या है, कंपनसेशन का मामला है, एम्प्लॉयज का जो मामला है, वहां पे जो महिला के जो नौकरी का मामला है, आदिवासी महिलाओं को बिल्कुल भी उनका जमीन जायदाद ले जाते हैं, लेकिन उनको खदान में नौकरी नहीं दे रहे थे। लेकिन हम लोग रथोबाई राठिया वर्सेस ACCL से जो गवर्नमेंट का कोयला खदान है, उससे हम लोगों ने हाई कोर्ट में 2016 से केस जीता और उस रथोबाई वर्सेस के कारण 365 महिलाओं को वहां हम लोग जॉब दिला पाए। ये एक बड़ा अचीवमेंट है। वहीं पे हमारे यहाँ अभी लगातार निजी कंपनियां लोगों की जमीनें ले रही हैं, लेकिन आदिवासी महिलाओं को नौकरी नहीं दिया जाता। लेकिन हमारे यहाँ जो आदिवासी महिलाएं हैं, उनका जीवन जो है वो पशुपालन, खेती और वनोपज संग्रहण, जंगल से सामान ला के करते हैं। लेकिन ये सब अभी कोयला खदान के कारण जो प्रपोज माइंस है 35 R&R पॉलिसी के तहत गांव हमारे यहाँ उजड़ने वाला है और अभी हमारी महिलाएं कोयला सत्याग्रह के रूप में अभी लड़ रहे हैं। वहीं पे कागज की लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं और सरकार से बोल रहे हैं कि हमें और कोयला खदान नहीं चाहिए। इसके अलावा कोयला के दूसरे विकल्प जैसे सौर ऊर्जा है उस पे करें। हमें हमारा पूरा सारा चीज जो खत्म होगा, हमारे बच्चों के भविष्य के लिए दिक्कत होगा। सरकार के द्वारा डिस्ट्रिक्ट मिनरल्स फंड लगाया गया है, लेकिन उसका कोई भी लाभ जो है उनको नहीं दिया जाता है। तो इस तरीके से हमारे यहाँ लगभग पूरा मूवमेंट जो है वो ट्राइबल लेडी के नेतृत्व में हो रहा है। हम लोग कोशिश करते हैं उनका एक्सपोजर विजिट करना, ट्रेनिंग करना, मीटिंग करना, कंटिन्यू इनको दस्तावेजी करना, और इस तरीके से हम लोग की कोशिश रहती है कि कम्युनिटी अपने मुद्दे खुद सरकार तक लेके आए। जो हमारे यहाँ जनप्रतिनिधि है, MP MLA, उस तक लेटर देना, मीडिया, सोशल मीडिया पे हम अपना बात रख रहे हैं और उसके बाद हम जन संगठन, आप जैसे बुद्धिजीवी वर्ग और देश दुनिया से जुड़ के हम अपनी बात करते हुए कोयला अब नहीं चाहिए, कोयला नहीं अनाज चाहिए। 1 इंच भी जमीन अब हम कोयला खनन के लिए और किसी भी बिना गैर कृषि के लिए हम अपना जमीन नहीं देना चाहते। आप सबका सहयोग है और आप लोग का धन्यवाद है कि आपने हमें मौका दिया। थैंक यू वेरी मच, हैप्पी दिवाली। हमारे यहाँ बहुत हैप्पी दीपावली का वो है, आप सबके जीवन में खुशियां आए।
Thank you so much, Savitha. Thank you so much for joining us, for bearing with us and being so gracious about the whole, technology. We wish you well and happy Diwali to you too. Thank you so much for giving your perspective from the actual people's lives living on the ground and what that actually means and its intersection with the conversations that we're having. To give some remarks to the presentation that you just gave, I'll invite May Buenventura, who's a Deputy Director of the Asia People's Movement on Debt and Development, who will, for about 3 minutes, give her reaction to what Sabitha has just presented. May, a warm welcome.
Yeah, hi, Crystal. It's been a long time. Yeah, so good evening to everyone. And I think Savita and our colleague from the first speaker really pointed out how mining as an activity carries with it an ethic of exploitation and extractivism. So it's extractivism of our natural resources, of our human labor, of women's bodies. No? So that we see mining as having all these destructive impacts, and also as a site of illicit financial flows, really makes it very egregious, and it strengthens our drive to bring the exploitative activities from economic to financial to light. And I think that's been shown in the Satyagraha that Savita shared, that women are rising and acting on these issues. There's a empirical record that mining actually exacerbates poverty and does not reduce it, but international financial institutions would have us believe otherwise. And it contributes to really high vulnerabilities, especially for women. If you look at the intersectionalities of women being in rural areas, far-flung areas where the resources are, where they're remote and or indigenous, and they're doing informal work and very insecure in their livelihoods. And then you also add the pre-existing conditions of discrimination and marginalization. So the impacts of illicit financial flows in terms of the revenue loss and the lack of social services that results in has a disproportionate effect on those who are more vulnerable in society. So this also leads to gender discriminatory policies such as VAT, the regressive taxes, because government attempts to recover what it loses in terms of incentives given to the mining companies. And also it propels privatization of essential services that women need, like water and housing, decent housing, because government is saying that the private sector can invest better and deliver better. So it's really important that we look more closely at the mining sector in relation to IFFs and gender, because of its character of the mining, of the extractives industry. It's very opaque. It's really lacking in transparency. It's controlled by very few handful of multinational corporations. It's also very highly technical. So you see governments saying that we leave the accounting to you, to the corporation. So they do their own tax mapping. So what can you expect from that kind of, that they surrender to the corporations, the financial accounting itself. No? And of course, it's highly discretionary. There's political discretion with regards the sector. And it's also very highly privileged because it's capital intensive, and we are being sold this story that we need big investments for mining to go forward and give us economic growth. So it's very important that very significant that in this conference we raise this issue connecting IFFs and gender and the power of women, because I think we foreground those dimensions that policymakers usually do not look at. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, May, for connecting it so well and really bringing the voices from Savitha's experience into this bigger, broader advocacy push that we're all engaged in. Sometimes making the links between those two can be very hard. So thank you so much for your wisdom, for your time, and being able to do that. We'll now move over to Colombia, one of my favorite countries. I fell in love with Bogota a few years ago, and I will welcome Maria, who's an economist and research coordinator at Sede Trabajo. I'm just going to say the acronym because I'm going to butcher this, RJFALC.
No lo voy a pronunciar porque lo voy a asesinar, pero...
And she will be sharing her experience from the Latin
American... hablar de su experiencia de América Latina.
Brian, for English speakers, should we
Brian,
pick Chinese or English?
¿Deben elegir chino o inglés?
Brian, are you there?
Brian, ¿estás ahí?
Carol, are you there? Do you know where we're supposed to click?
Carol, ¿estás ahí? ¿Sabes dónde hay que hacer clic?
Hi, Crystal. Just ask your question again.
Click on the Spanish translation to get
Haz clic en la interpretación en español para obtener
the translation for the Spanish
la
conversation.
interpretación
And for English
a la
speakers,
conversación en
where should we
español.
click?
Y los angloparlantes, ¿dónde deben hacer clic?
Because I'm currently on English, but I can
Porque en ese
hear
momento
Ramon.
estoy en inglés, pero ¿puedo escuchar a Ramón?
I'm so sorry, Ramon.
Lo siento.
It's updated, sorry.
No problem at all.
Okay, so Brian, just for English speakers, we should click on English.
Para los angloparlantes debemos hacer clic en inglés.
Okay,
¿Sí?
I think we're fine.
Muy bien.
Maria, welcome. And I hope Spanish speakers can hear Ramon on the other side.
Y los hispanoparlantes pueden oír a Ramón al otro extremo de la línea. Muy bien.
Okay, I will start.
Muy bien.
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Buenos días a todos. Quisiera empezar dándoles gracias a la conferencia, porque esta es una oportunidad en donde Colombia y Latinoamérica puede dar su punto de vista. A continuación les presentaré una pequeña presentación sobre lo que está pasando actualmente en Colombia, en Latinoamérica. Entonces, un momento mientras presiento. ¿Ahora pueden ver? Bueno.
Yes.
Ok. Entonces, pues nosotros en Colombia tenemos un sistema tributario bastante regresivo. Es un sistema que está apoyado principalmente en la población más pobre, es decir, que los más ricos con más dinero no realmente están pagando lo que deben, y esto se muestra principalmente en el índice de Gini, en la desigualdad antes y después de impuestos. Pues la equidad en términos de Colombia está muy mal. Pues el índice de Gini antes y después de impuestos varía apenas 2,2 puntos porcentuales. Si pueden ver acá, Colombia antes de impuestos tiene un índice de Gini de 58,7%, mientras que después de ingresos apenas se reduce a 56,4%. Cuestión que si comparamos con países como pues, Alemania, Francia, que la diferencia es de un poco más de 20 puntos porcentuales, realmente Colombia está muy lejos o dista mucho de sus pares de la OCDE, ya que hace poco entró a la OCDE. Y si comparamos incluso con países de su región, tenemos que Argentina, por ejemplo, para no ir más lejos, cambia su Gini, reduce su Gini en más o menos 9 puntos porcentuales, lo que realmente dice y muestra que Colombia con su sistema tributario realmente no está reduciendo la desigualdad en los impuestos, ¿no? Entonces, esto es una cosa que es importante recalcar porque muestra y pues da cuenta de que Colombia para el año pasado fue el 4º país más desigual del mundo. Entonces, tenemos que tener en cuenta eso para nuestro análisis. Si tenemos en cuenta el recaudo como porcentaje del PIB, Colombia sigue distando mucho de sus pares e incluso al entrar a la OCDE, pues vemos que dista en más o menos 15 puntos porcentuales como recaudo del PIB. Estos son datos para 2018. Quiere decir que Colombia, mientras el 19,4% del PIB es recaudo para países como Francia, y para ponerlo en los mismos ejemplos, casi triplica el recaudo, y si tenemos en cuenta el promedio de la OCDE, pues igual falta mucho para llegar a eso. Así las cosas, vemos acá el recaudo tributario de Colombia dividido en impuestos directos e impuestos indirectos. ¿Esto cómo impacta a las mujeres? Si bien sabemos, las mujeres por su condición biológica tienen que pagar una serie de productos para su higiene menstrual. Si nos damos cuenta, los impuestos indirectos acá van aumentando, su proporción va aumentando con respecto al total del recaudo, lo que quiere decir, en otras cosas, que las mujeres han tenido que pagar, digamos, cada vez más estos impuestos indirectos. Acá cabe resaltar que los impuestos directos, que son impuesto a la renta, impuesto al patrimonio, si bien tiene una mayor proporción, estos impuestos son mayormente pagados por hombres, porque ellos son quienes tienen las oportunidades o tienen más oportunidad de tener riqueza, de tener renta. Entonces es por eso que también esto hace que sea un poco desigual el término de recaudo en Colombia. Desde ese trabajo, desde Colombia, nosotros hemos apoyado una iniciativa que empezó desde 2014 con es una campaña llamada Menstruación Libre de Impuestos. Esto se creó con el fin de disminuir el IVA de las toallas higiénicas y tampones, los productos de higiene menstrual. Se logró pasar del 16%, que en ese momento era la tasa de IVA, actualmente es del 19%, al 5%. Eso se logró en 2016. Pero el año pasado se logró que este impuesto que pasó del 16 al 5% realmente quedara exento, es decir, con un impuesto del 0%. Eso realmente es un logro grandísimo para Colombia y debe ser ejemplo para Latinoamérica, pues es el primer país que logra constitucionalmente tumbar el impuesto a la higiene menstrual y a la condición biológica de nosotras de menstruar. Y producto de este logro en Colombia, se creó o salió un libro que se llama tal cual como la campaña Menstruación Libre de Impuestos, y es con el apoyo de Oxfam. Entonces es importante recalcar este tema. Ahora, teniendo en cuenta los beneficios tributarios de los sectores para vincularlo a la minería, en Colombia el sector minero energético es el 4º sector con más beneficios tributarios a 2018. Esto quiere decir que por descuentos, por exenciones tributarias, por deducciones, el sector es el 4º sector que más le cuesta al gobierno con estos beneficios tributarios. Esto porque es importante, porque el sector minero energético es uno de los sectores que menos ocupa personas, menos ocupa población en edad de trabajar, población económicamente activa. Entonces es importante hacer hincapié en esto, porque el gobierno está dejando de recaudar en pesos colombianos un promedio de 1,5 billones Esto más o menos serían, tal vez me corrigen, por ahí 300 mil dólares, millones de dólares, perdón, más o menos a la tasa de cambio del dólar actual. ¿Esto por qué es importante? Porque estos beneficios se suman al costo fiscal que tienen los flujos financieros ilícitos también para Colombia. Entonces, si tomamos solo los flujos financieros ilícitos de los principales 4 productos, que son petróleo, carbón, ferroníquel, que es la aleación entre hierro y el níquel, y el oro, el costo fiscal de los flujos financieros ilícitos en millones de dólares asciende a 8.000. Entonces, esto es, digamos, el acumulado de 2010 a 2018. Si lo comparamos solo con 2018, serían 550 millones de dólares. Esto es una suma altísima, digamos, teniendo en cuenta el costo fiscal que se traduce. ¿Esto para qué o cómo serviría si se dejara de perder este dinero en esta pérdida fiscal para el gobierno? Debería invertirse en sectores en donde las mujeres tengan más, sectores que tengan más proporción de mujeres trabajando. Si nos damos cuenta, el sector de explotación, minas y canteras es una proporción de 14,7, el número de mujeres trabajando en este sector, mientras que pues, intermediación financiera, servicios comunales y sociales asciende a un promedio de 60%. Entonces, lo que debería realmente hacer el gobierno como una política pública enfocada a temas de género es realmente invertir lo que se está dejando de recibir, este costo fiscal, tanto de los beneficios tributarios como de los flujos financieros ilícitos, debería invertirse en sectores que sean mayormente ocupados por mujeres. Hablamos de comercio, de actividades inmobiliarias empresariales, intermediación financiera y servicios comunales que ocupan más del 50% de su mano de obra en mujeres. Entonces, esto es lo que realmente debería hacer el gobierno para tener un enfoque de género en la propuesta minera y en la reducción del costo fiscal que implica los flujos financieros ilícitos y los beneficios tributarios que tiene el sector minero.
Maria, are you done?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I sort of dropped off for some reason. Zoom kicked me out, so I didn't catch the last part of your presentation, but thank you so much. And thank you to Ramon for doing such a great job of interpreting for us today. I wonder if Professor Gavin Hilson is with us. I know he was joining a little bit later, and I'm just checking if he's on the call.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Do you have a camera on that we can see you too?
Yes. Just give me 1 second here. I'm sorting out my presentation.
No problem. Professor Gavin is the representative from the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa and will be giving us a global overview with some examples from the work and research that he borrows from. Welcome, Professor Gavin.
Can you hear me fine? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you fine. You have about 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen here. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about women in small-scale mining in sub-Saharan Africa. I didn't know I had 5 minutes, but I'll go through this as quickly as possible. It draws heavily on some research that we've done with funded by UNECA. We get into it in a second. We put together 3 very comprehensive reports which draw upon the gender dimension of ASM in sub-Saharan Africa country reports. Okay. And look, I mean, the issues related to gender in ASM in sub-Saharan Africa map onto the broader concerns in this sector. the concerns that we all have about the sector: transparency, corruption, illegality, environmental and social concerns that we have about the sector. And these are all manifestations, if you want, or a result of the sector not being formalized. So it maps onto all of these concerns. And there's a number of organizations that are certainly interested in these issues being addressed, and are working and are committed to broadening understanding of these issues. And again, these the gender concerns map onto these general issues very clearly. Look, I mean, none of those issues I mentioned can be adequately nuanced without a proper understanding of the sector. There's just so much uncertainty around what goes on in this sector, the financial flows, the labor, the goods and services, and when you start to plug away at these dynamics, you get an appreciation of just how much money is circulating in this sector, and why formalization of its activities should be at the top. Let's face it, should be at the top of every African government's development agenda, on the grounds of what taxing this sector can provide for them financially. We all know why the sector is informal. I'm not going to get into these issues. A combination of inappropriate licensing frameworks, large-scale mining bias, which proliferates across the region, bureaucracy and delays with permitting. We need more information. We keep making assumptions, and we're very impatient. We're not making very, very sound decisions at all when it comes to formalizing the sector and supporting the sector. And the gender dimension can provide a very important lens into examining some of these key issues that we're in desperate need of examining further. We generalize about women's involvement in the sector. 50% of the sector in sub-Saharan Africa, in many cases significantly more, of the population of the workforce is women. Their roles are underappreciated and generally unappreciated, and their importance is heavily overlooked. The women engaged in the sector, particularly in the 3 countries we've done the work in, there's an agenda here to push for alternative livelihoods, to get these women out of the sector. Well, I'm sorry, in these countries and in many other countries, ASM is the alternative livelihood. So they're moving out of activities into this sector because it is the alternative livelihood. These are the objectives of the UNECA study, which covered 3 countries, well, 5 countries originally. We have 3 studies, reports put together for Mali, Ghana, and Tanzania. And it's really informed a second very comprehensive project that I've started up. Most of you who do work on ASM are familiar with the Delve platform. We've done work on the impact of COVID-19 in some of these countries. 22 countries in total. I've done 5 countries in Africa, including Mali and Ghana, which featured in the UNECA study. And in addition to putting together, collecting quantitative data, I've collected some qualitative and qualitative data in the form of long survey data and also diaries data from women, which basically reinforce the major points that the major conclusions that came out of the UNECA stuff. A couple more slides here and then I should be done. As I've indicated, none of the issues I've mentioned can be adequately nuanced without sufficient information from the ground. And the gender lens really helps us, studying the practices and the engagement of these women in the sector really provides us, or puts us in a position to bridge some of these information gaps. And just to sort of talk us through quickly here before I wrap up, what the ASM and women literature in sub-Saharan Africa looks like. We all initially started off by focusing on how these women are being exploited in the sector, the health and safety issues they face and challenges they face. More recently, you've seen some work come out that recognizes the importance of ASM in their lives, and critically their lack of representation at the top of the food chain, very fewer concession holders, et cetera. But you've seen now a more nuanced body of literature, and this is where the studies come in and the work that I'm doing right now, not linked to UNECA and Delve, et cetera, about how empowerment can mean many things in this sector for these women. A lot of these women that we've communicated with don't want to move out from their work. You know, they are in the middle of the food chain, but still that work enables them to do a lot of things that they would otherwise not be able to do, given the roles they play in the household and et cetera. So the question becomes, how do we fix this? And let me just wrap up with these two slides here quickly. You know, this third area of research, and I'll make available the presentation afterwards, this third area of research is critical, because a nuancing of these issues and what these women are doing in the sector really adds fuel to a livelihoods argument that's rapidly losing momentum and speaks to the sustainable development goals, the whole gender component of the sustainable development goals, this third area of research. And it really buoys this argument in support of formalizing the sector on the grounds of taxation, because where there's money, you know, governments will certainly be interested. Here's my last slide here. And going back to those organizations and other organizations that are why they should be interested in the sector. You know, there's a lot of momentum, you know, to sort of understand the sector and to incorporate the sector in some of these transparency initiatives, these taxation initiatives. Well, you know, this is how we go about broadening understanding of the dynamics. You know, if we study, and this is what's been revealed in these studies that we've done, if you study the practices of women, what they're doing in this sector, the types of engagements they're involved in, you get a lot of information that really bridges some of the gaps that we're looking to bridge. You know, you see that this is an economy where there's a lot of transactions that take place before that money is generated, that's handed over to the government or handed over to the concession owner and so on. You uncover information about agricultural transactions, the sector is linked to agriculture, equipment transactions, how people are reinvesting their money, information about household expenditure, school fees. These are all the things that these women are doing with the money that they're generating in this sector, again, in the middle of this supply chain, carrying out this general labor. And you also uncover information about other stuff, the other stuff that we're trying to find out information about, stuff linked to mercury, cross-border stuff, other economies, you know, the support services and so on. So you get a broader picture of all these financial flows that are taking place. And this is what we've really uncovered through this comprehensive research, both through UNECA and Delve, about the roles of women in these ASM economies in sub-Saharan Africa. And that's it. That's my 5 plus 2 or 3 minutes.
Crystal, are you there? Can you hear us? Hello, Crystal.
She's on mute.
Thank you, Prof, for that. Thank you, Prof, for that very excellent presentation, bringing in the angle of small-scale miners and how the gender dimension in that area also comes out quite strongly. The harmful impacts that we are seeing, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. And it would be interesting for you to share with us the work, a report of the work that you are doing so that we can really partake of some of the good work that you've undertaken. Without
Is anyone speaking?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Are we? Oh, I keep getting kicked out. Are we all here?
Yep, we're here. We're good. I'm just wondering who was speaking because no one was.
I think it was
I was
back to
actually
Professor Gavin. I
speaking.
keep getting kicked out, so I don't know whether it's me.
No, yeah, we're good.
Okay. Go ahead, Carol.
No, I'm saying that I was actually speaking when you got kicked out. Then I also got kicked out. Then I got back now when you are talking. So it's fine. Go ahead to the next session. It's fine.
Okay. So thank you, Professor Gavin. I think your research brings up a number of issues, a lack of representation, but it also makes me question whose literature and whose voices is being captured in this literature and how we can begin to decolonize whose knowledge that we're sharing, but also something that has been a huge central point for the feminist movement is whose definition of empowerment and what that means. So thank you very much. I will now welcome the team behind this very powerful panel, Carol and Rose, to come in and give us sort of bringing together remarks, and maybe we'll have time to try technology, right? And apologies to give your remarks as, you know, the convenes justice.
Thank you so much, Crystal, for moderating this very excellent session. Despite the technical challenges, I think we've been really able to get to hear of very rich experiences from across the world, from Asia to Latin America, and even the Africa experience. I'm excited that we are having this conversation on the sidelines of the currently ongoing Pan-Africa Conference on illicit financial flows and tax. This conference is happening the whole week. And if you've not registered, please register and be part of the other conversations that are going on within the PAC conference. So this session really was to bring in the gender dimension of the whole theme of the PAC around tax in the extractive sector. And so having really heard from all these wonderful speakers, I've not seen any question in the chat box or in the Q&A. I don't know if there are any comments from the audience or any questions that you would want our presenters to respond to before we really wrap up the session and say our goodbyes. Any questions from the floor or comments? Crystal, I'm not seeing any on the chat box or on the Q&A, so I think I'll just move
I think maybe if you wrap up and also give Rose some space to speak, and maybe people are percolating questions, and if there's any, then we can take them.
Great. So I think I would really want to reiterate some of the issues that most of the presenters have highlighted. The fact that we see really illicit financial flows and harmful tax practices really affecting and impacting women negatively, and particularly in the global south, where we have these large companies, pushing forward with extractivism and affecting all facets of women lives. So I think it's an area that women continue to push against, and it's something that as a collective, and I think May mentioned this during her presentation, that women are now rising and we are speaking against these kind of ills in the society, and as a collective we are able to go further And therefore, as part also of this conversation, there's the Global Tax and Gender Working Group, currently doing a lot of work on these issues. So if you're interested to be part of this collective, kindly feel free to reach out to us. But also, on the same breath, there's the Global Day of Action on Tax Justice in the extractive sector that is coming up on the 19th of this month, which is roughly around 7 days from today. You are also invited to be part of that Global Day of Action so that you can continue advancing the conversations that we've had today around mobilizations on the same issue. So it's a space that really would give us an opportunity to have coordinated actions across the world and to really expose the rot that is in the extractive sector in regards to the harmful tax practices that are perpetuated within that industry. So I think I'd like to invite Rose so that Rose can sort of give a brief overview and to also thank the co-organizers of this very wonderful side event and to also talk about the work that the Tax and Gender does. So Rose, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carol and everyone. My name is Rose Saubrink, and as Carol said, we are together co-chairing the Tax and Gender Working Group of the Global Alliance for Tax Justice. I'm based at Womankind Worldwide in the UK, and we're a feminist women's rights organization. And I've really enjoyed learning a lot from all of you today. As someone who thinks corporate accountability is really important, and making those connections between different industries and tax injustices, I think is really, enhanced my understanding of these issues. And I'm really looking forward to continue the conversation outside of this session. So just a little bit about the Tax and Gender Working Group. We're a global working group, and if you're interested to join, please let myself or Carol know. And it really focuses on looking at how tax justice can support women's rights from a feminist perspective. And we look at different spaces within that, both supporting national level advocacy, but also focusing on the global international financial architecture, which really stems from colonial relationships that are perpetuating the opportunities for governments, especially in the global south, to have their own autonomy to decide on how they want to spend and raise money, but also obviously the representation of all the people in those countries, and especially women. And I think what we've really heard today again is that accountability is so important, especially when we're talking about resources. So these are not just financial resources, but also our natural resources and the resources that is our time as people. And I think, again, also women's participation in these decisions and in any decisions that affect women and our communities, but also our industries and how we organize our economies and societies is really important. And I think many speakers highlighted this as well. But then on the positive side, the strength of women organizing and people organizing around these issues and pushing for change and that accountability, and the immense power that we have when we come together as collectives and really listen to each other within that space. So I'll stop with that as a reflection. Carol, I hope I've shared enough on the working group, but happy to add something else if that's welcome. And as I said, our door is open for any further conversations, as well as to join the working group. And I believe there was one question in the Q&A around gender-based violence as well. So maybe someone could raise that before we close. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Rose. I think the question was for Professor Gavin from Kusiri. What I might ask us to do, because I'm conscious of time and also can see that we're being asked to move to the plenary by 4:25, which is in 3 minutes, I will ask Rose or Carol to put details of joining the working group or any email that people can contact you on the chat box so people can access that. And I will also ask if Carol can get content from Professor Gavin on the report that he was referring to that can be shared out to participants. And that might also answer Mukasiri's question on GBV and the connection to mining. Am I still on the call? Because Rose looks... Hello? Oh, wow.
Crystal, we can hear you.
You can hear me, okay. So thank you, Rose, for putting the email addresses. Everybody, those are Rose's and Carol's email addresses. If anyone would like to join the Women's Rights Working Group for the Global Alliance on Tax Justice, I will ask Carol to get in touch with Professor Gavin to get the latest draft or he says most of the work on GBV and ASM has focused on the Great Lakes region. And so maybe you can just give us a heads up, Professor, when your report is out and if that's shareable or where we can access it or look out for it, what website that might be. And I will close now. A very big thank you to everyone. This was truly, truly in the spirit of the Global Alliance for Tax Justice, a very global representation and panel. We've had people from all regions in so many different languages. It's been an honor to moderate and an honor to learn from each and every one of you. Happy Diwali this week, and we shall see you in the plenary.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, Crystal, and bye-bye to everyone.
Bye.